the faith with one another. Để cho mình bắt đầu xin các huynh trưởng giữ lại một giây phút thinh lặng để cho mình dâng giờ chia sẻ này lên cho Chúa. Nhân danh Cha và Con và Thánh Thần. Amen. Lạy Chúa, chúng con xin Chúa chúc lành cho buổi chia sẻ của chúng con trong đêm hôm nay. Xin cho chúng con luôn được sự hướng dẫn của Chúa Thánh Linh trong đời sống chúng con. Chỉ trong khi chúng con học hỏi chia sẻ, chúng con luôn được vươn lên để trở gần với Chúa hơn. Nhất là trong mùa chay thánh này, cho chúng con có sự biến đổi trong tâm hồn, cũng là cho chúng con được hiểu biết thêm, cũng là canh tân cuộc sống để cho được qua thánh giá cùng danh vinh quang với Thiên Chúa. Con xin tất cả mọi sự qua lời truyền cầu của Đức Mẹ, là mẹ luôn luôn đồng hành với chúng con. Con xin vì công nghiệp Chúa Kitô, Chúa chúng con. Amen. Nhân danh Cha và Con và Thánh Thần. Amen. Rồi, thì những chứng dân đã chia sẻ rồi là sau mình sẽ có một cái bài, một số tâm tình. I think the wisdom of the Holy Spirit is always at work. And the quote that I will use is taken from the Gospel of C.M.R, which is, can you drink this cup? Embrace the bitter to be better. So trước khi mình bắt đầu vô cái bài chia sẻ thì sau mình kể một cái câu chuyện, nhưng để cho kể cái câu chuyện ấy, thì cần các huynh trưởng, các anh chị lấy một vài dụng cụ cho sơ ha. Would you be willing some way, somehow, hopefully within your ability, to go find 3 types of cups? Any type of cup. Cái ly mà mình hay thích uống nhất, ví dụ cái ly ban sáng mình hay uống ly cà phê hoặc ly trà, hay bất cứ cái gì nào mà mình hay uống từ. Find any 3 types of cups for me. So xin vô nhà bếp, vô phòng nào để cứ việc lấy 3 cái ly cho sơ ha. Any 3 different types of cups. Sau bên trong 1 phút đi tìm. Giống như là Brian đã có sẵn hết rồi. Was it already within your grasp, Brian? Okay. Hello, Trần Tử. Good to see you again.
Sorry, I came late. What did I have to do? I just got off work.
Can you go find 3 cups for me? Any 3 types of cups, things that you normally drink out of, if you would. Okay, nếu mà trường nào đang ở nơi làm, sợ làm thì cũng không có sao. So mình hy vọng là cũng có thể tìm một cái break room and go find a cup. That's all. Trường Hiếu rất là dễ thương. That's all you need, chị. Nói là lên nơi Khoa mới làm mới rửa chén xong ấy, it's all in the dishwasher, so you have nothing to drink out of.
Oh no, I have a lot. I just can't hold it all.
Rồi anh Dương, sao hình tượng anh Dương đi lấy shot glass chứ phải? Like no,
these are what I can grab. Yeah.
Whatever you can grab.
I haven't unpacked my TV collection glasses yet.
Oh yes, I know there's so many in the collection. So mình nói phải đi lựa chọn cái nào mà mình thấy hay nhất. Okay. So mình hy vọng là các anh chị đã trở lại. I only see a few people, but that's okay. Ít nhất là có một số người thì có cái sự hiện diện thì miễn là có ly trong tay ha. Okay. Hi Tina, how are you? You have your mugs in your hand too. Chị Biên cũng có ly không? Chị Biên. Tiff got hers. Very good.
Dạ có.
All right. Sao chị Biên?
Dạ có, sẽ đừng có thích ông con tối nay nha.
Okay, không có đâu chị ơi. Yên chí, mình không có dám. Alright, so mình muốn bắt đầu với một cái câu chuyện ha. And when you have it, you can put all your cups down. You don't have to hold it necessarily at the moment. But ít nhất là nó có chung quanh mình. It's around you somewhere within that part. Okay. So here's a story. It's called Life is Like a Cup of Coffee. Có thể các huynh trưởng quen. If you're not, then just play along with me. A group of students, highly established in their careers, got together to visit their old university professor. Soon, conversation turned into complaints about stress in work and life. Offering his guests coffee, the professor went to the kitchen and returned with a large pot of coffee and an assortment of cups, porcelain, plastic, glass, crystal, some plain-looking, some expensive, some exquisite, telling his students to help themselves to the coffee. When all the students had a cup of coffee in hand, the professor said, "If you notice, all the nice-looking expensive cups have been taken, leaving behind the plain and cheap ones, like this." While it's normal for you to want only the best for yourselves, that is the source of your problems and stress. Be assured that the cup itself adds no quality to the coffee. In most cases, it is just more expensive, and in some cases even hides what we drink. What all of you really wanted was coffee, not the cup, but you consciously went for the best cups. And then you began eyeing each other's cups. Now consider this. Life is the coffee. The jobs, money, and position in society are the cups. They are just tools to hold and contain life. And the type of cup we have does not define nor change the quality of life we live. Sometimes, by concentrating only on the cup, we fail to enjoy the coffee. Savor the coffee, not the cups. Thì Sơ Huỳnh không có biết là các anh chị huynh trưởng ấy, what kind of cup that you have in hand. I raised the most typical styrofoam type of coffee cup that you can have. Then you have this mug. And then you have the really fancy type of mug like this. Cái ly này là chị của Sơ Huỳnh nó gửi cho Sơ. It has an H on it. And I says, oh gosh, it's too fancy. Sơ Huỳnh cũng không có dám uống cà phê trong đó, tượng trưng thôi. Mà mình nói là we have all these types of cups, and yet that story is so insightful, because what is it that we seek in our life? What is it that we want? Sometimes we lose sight of what the importance and the meaning life contains. And so in this whole season of Lent, nếu mà mình có thể dùng cái analogy này, use this image in our journey, is that we've been on a journey already. We've been seeking certain things in our lives. This listening to the stories through the last few weeks of the season of Lent. The first week, we heard the story of Jesus' temptation in the desert. The second week, we saw Jesus' transfiguration, his glory being revealed on Mount Tabor. Then the third week, we hear Jesus cleansing the temple, trying to purify the hearts of the people, not just on the outside, but then an internal conversion. And then, of course, last but not least, yesterday's gospel, God so loved the world. When we hear this story about life being like a cup, it's this aspect of we need to refocus our lives, not on the cup itself, but on what's found within the cup, what is found within us. And so the passage that I wish to share for you is, as I said, taken from the Gospel of C.M.R. So if you would allow me to read it for you. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." Jesus replied, "What do you wish me to do for you?" They answered him, "Grant that in your glory we may sit one at your right and the other at your left." And Jesus asked, "You do not know what you are. Can you drink the cup that I will drink? Can you be baptized with the baptism by which I am to be baptized?" And they said to him, "We can." And Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you too will drink." So if you hear the story of James and John, this is actually one of the passages right before Jesus begins his ascent to Jerusalem to embrace his very death. And here you have two of his disciples seeking the success, that story that I was talking about, how these college students were looking at each other's cups, wanting some glory, wanting some reputation, wanting some success. And Jesus says, "You're missing the whole point. You don't realize what it is that you're asked to do. Can you drink the cup?" There's a book that I wish to share with you. This is actually the basis of the reflection. This is called Can You Drink the Cup by Father Henry Nouwen. Có thể một số anh chị huynh trưởng quen tác giả này. Beautiful insights. And so my basis of this story about can you embrace the bitter to be better is to embrace this cup. And although all these cups có thể bây giờ các trưởng nhìn cái ly của mình đi, look at your cup. Is it the normal cup that you normally drink out of? Hay là nó là một tiện thể đi với, and then that's it. Okay, Linh là gật đầu ha. This is the one I drink from. This is every morning. Trước khi con mình thức, trước khi nó khóc, mình phải uống một ly cà phê cho nó tỉnh táo. So không biết là các anh chị huynh trưởng khác nói thật nha, bao nhiêu anh chị phải uống không phải một ly mà chắc một feed cà phê để cho mình có cái sự tỉnh táo trước khi mình đi làm. How many of you? I don't want to know about Monster drinks. I don't want to know about any energy drinks. I'm talking about coffee. Bao nhiêu người phải uống ly? Chị Hiếu, chị có phải uống cà phê trước khi chị đi làm không vậy chị? Không, tốt quá. Chị uống trà không? Chị có uống trà không chị?
Dạ.
Chị Hiếu có uống trà. Tú thì sao? Do you drink coffee Tú?
No, tea, trà.
Trà xanh. Okay, anh Cương.
And chai.
Chai tea. Anh Cương, do you drink coffee or tea? You drink both, right? I can hear you, anh Cương. You're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I drink both.
You
But
drink
just
both.
coffee just because it's warm.
Coffee because
If I
it's
could, I would
warm.
drink a soda in the morning. But...
Okay. Tina, do you drink coffee or no? I don't think so, right? No. Okay. Antoine, do you drink coffee, Anh?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. Anh Dương thì khỏi hỏi rồi ha. Anh Dương thì chuyên môn như là, that's like your middle name, right? He's like, Anh Dương, like, yeah, sometimes. Okay. So this passage about drinking the cup. You remember what Jesus posed him? Can you drink the cup that I shall drink? All these beautiful cups, okay, all these cups. I don't think it's what Jesus would have drinking out of, okay? This maybe is a better rendition of what Jesus would have drinking out of. There's no handle, okay? And so when we talk about drinking the cup, embracing the bitter to be better, it has to start off with a couple of different questions. The question is, can you drink the cup? Can you drink it completely? Can you drink it entirely? Even if it's bitter. Nào, không biết là các anh chị thì sao? Khi sơ Huỳnh còn nhỏ đó, mẹ của sơ Huỳnh hay bị đau ốm ấy, hay uống thuốc bắc. Mà không biết các anh chị có quen thuốc bắc ấy, nó rất là đắng. Mà mẹ của sơ Huỳnh ấy nói là phải uống 2-3 thang thường xuyên. Mà nói là con ơi nó đắng quá, má phải nín hơi, uống một hớp cho nó xong. I think that's maybe possibly the context that Jesus is referring to. When he says, can you drink this cup? That this cup is filled with so many different things. But then you also have to ask yourself, why do I want to drink this cup? Jesus posed it, do you want to? Can you? So it's the desire is on our end. Do we want to drink this cup that's filled with so many different things? There's so much pain involved. Just like my mom, mẹ nói là nó đắng mà phải uống thuốc thì nó mới lành bệnh. You know, that she understood it was for medicinal purposes. But oftentimes, why do we drink the coffee? Because we want to be alert. Why do we drink the tea? We want better health. But in the case of Jesus's drinking the cup, it involves something much, much more deeper, something more insightful, so much more meaningful. And so when we talk about, can you drink this cup? Embrace the bitter to be better. There's a series of actions that go along with drinking the cup. Even before it's drunken, you have to take the first step. And the first step is what I would say, and this is what Father Harry Nouwen in his book said, holding the cup. Okay? You have to hold the cup in your hand. Khi Chúa Giêsu mời gọi các tông đồ nói là, con có uống được cái chén này được không ấy? Trước hết là mình có dám cầm không? And so I asked that question to each one of you. You willingly drink that cup of coffee. You willingly bring it to you to work, to in the car, in the drive to work. If you're driving to work, mình biết là trong cái thời gian của pandemic, thì some of you maybe are working remotely from home. But I still say, nonetheless, you're drinking your cup of coffee to be alert. But in this case, as I said, a spiritual context is, are you willing to hold the cup? Có dám cầm lấy không? Because this cup involves things that we may not be aware of. So holding this cup means you have to know what you're drinking. It's not coffee, Angie. It's not necessarily tea. What is it? Dare I say it may be something bitter, something within your own life. If we connect that analogy to your own life, what is the bitterness that Jesus is inviting you to hold on to? Is it lack of relationships? Is it lack of interaction because of the pandemic? Is it lack of health? All those aspects are related to our life, and it requires great courage. It requires a certain type of generosity, a certain discipline for us to be willing to hold it. Bởi vì nói cho cùng ấy, nếu mà các anh chị khi mình cảm thấy có cái chén mà mình biết ở trong đó nó có cái chất đắng ấy, giống anh Dương kể từ ban đầu là cái trái khổ qua, nó rất là khổ khi mình ăn vô, mình biết nó rất là đắng, mình không có muốn ăn, thà là thôi mình nhịn đói không có ăn cái mức đắng là hơn. Và mình biết là sau thời gian là mình hiểu là I understand why it's better for me, but at the moment all I taste is bitterness. Is that not like our life? That our life is this cup that we're holding in our hands. And in this difficulty, maybe we're laid off during the pandemic. Maybe you are isolated because you yourself end up being in contact tracing. You have to quarantine yourself. Maybe that's the bitterness, the inability to visit family or friends. Hay là những người thân yêu ở trong nhà thương mà chính mình cũng không có được thăm họ. Is that part of the bitterness that you're holding, that Jesus is inviting you to hold in your hand? Of course, it's easier to put it down. It's easier to say, no, it's not worth it. I don't want to hold it. There's too many questions. Có nhiều câu hỏi, nhiều thắc mắc, nhiều cái hồ nghi quá. Không có muốn nhìn cái sự thật. Không có dám nhìn cái sự thật. Nhưng nếu mình thực sự mình nói là thôi uống cho nó xong, like my mom would just drink it just for the sake of just to be done with it. Is that truly embracing the cup? Is that really embracing the bitterness that Jesus is inviting us to? Because if you consider Jesus in his life, did he hold his cup? Did he hold the bitterness and the anguish that he was presented by his very Father? Because as we heard in the gospel from yesterday, God so loved the world that he sent his only son. Chúa Giêsu có hiểu hoàn toàn cái sứ mệnh mà Chúa Cha đã trao phó không? Mình có thể nói là có. Nhưng trong cái nhân tính của Ngài đấy, in his humanity, Jesus had to embrace the bitterness. And so if we want to be like Christ, nếu mà các anh chị huynh trưởng muốn giống Chúa Kitô, trước hết, first and foremost, you have to be willing to hold your cup, to see it, to accept it. That doesn't mean you understand it all. And that doesn't mean you're ready to consume it all, to receive it all. But first step is just simply holding it. Hold that life that Jesus has given to you with all the bitterness, with all the uncertainty, with all the struggles and the pain. Bởi vì nói thật đấy, mọi người chúng ta cũng đều có những cái thách đố trong cuộc sống. We all have those challenges. Đừng có nghe sơ đi tu, cha đi tu, mình hạnh phúc lắm. Oh no, cuộc sống nào cũng đều có những cái thánh giá, những cái khó khăn, những cái cay đắng trong cái ly của mình. Nhưng Chúa đã mời gọi chúng ta mà không phải cầm một tay mà thôi đâu nhé. Khi Chúa Giêsu mời gọi chúng ta đó, có cái sự can đảm đó. Mình nói là mình phải mạnh dạn, những là khi mình làm huynh trưởng ha, mình phải bước một bước để cho mình có cái sự mạnh dạn đó. When Jesus invites us to embrace the cup, is to embrace it with both hands, which is a sign of willingness, not một cách miễn cưỡng mà một cách sẵn sàng. You're open to receiving. You're open to determine what is it that God's going to pour into your cup, because that is the first action of embracing the bitterness. Not that we understand it all, but that we're brave enough, we're courageous enough with God's grace to hold it in our hands. Okay, so cái đó là bước đầu tiên. Các huynh trưởng có thể đoán được. If the first step to embracing the bitter to be better is to hold it in your hand, then what do you think is the next step? Nếu mà mình có thể đoán được đi, if you want to determine in your mind, what's the next step after holding it? And I'll tell you this, drinking doesn't come until later. Có một hình nói là you have to sniff it. That's right. In a certain context, you have to take in the aroma. Okay? Nó là đối với I think some of you know me well enough. I actually don't drink coffee. So when là người, I'm very sensitive to caffeine. And so in the morning, I drink no coffee. Có một thời trước khi sau mình đi dạy học, cái học sinh của sau I teach high school. And so my students said, Sister Gwen, where do you get all your energy from? And I said, do you drink a lot of coffee? I said, I don't drink one ounce of coffee, not one drop. They said, but what do you drink? Bây giờ mình cứ cười tủm tỉm thôi. So now every morning before I teach, I actually attend Holy Mass. So mình tham dự thánh lễ. Và cái thời trước khi COVID ấy, thì đương nhiên là mình rất lễ được dưới hai hình thức. So I would always receive the precious blood. Thì so when chào học sinh, it says, oh, coffee's not strong enough. I need the real thing. So when hay nói là I have the precious blood. So học sinh nói, oh, that's where she gets it. But it is true. It's because of that strength that I have. But trước khi mình thường là không biết anh chị làm sao. But before I receive the chalice, you actually do hold it. When the minister hands you the chalice, you will hold it in your hands. And thường mình theo một cách mình rất là tôn trọng, very respectful. You hold the chalice with both hands. So you receive it. And then before you receive it, the smell of the precious blood, of course, is alcoholic in content. This precious blood is no longer alcohol, but the alcoholic content, you can smell the aroma. Okay, just like you can smell your coffee. Nhưng anh chị ăn cơm thì nói là he just wants to drink something warm. Is that not true too? You want the caffeine, but you also want something warm. Cách đây 2 tháng ấy, ở St. Louis, very, very cold. We were minus 15 degree wind chill. Các trong nhà chỉ muốn uống cái nước nóng cho nó ấm bụng. That's what they say. And so when you hold the cup, if you have coffee in your hand, do you not smell the aroma? Do you not take in the flavor somehow? That is also part of holding the cup. And the next step is sniffing, actually taking in the smells. And that means looking in your cup. Okay, so holding the cup and looking inside, what is it that God has in store? Now, this is the hard part though. Thay vì mình nhìn ở trong chén, you know what we do? Naturally, we look at other people. We compare ourselves with other people. Thay vì mình chú ý về cái ly mà Chúa đã trao, mình so sánh với những người khác. Oh, her cup is so much prettier. Or his cup is so much better. It's bigger. It holds more. Instead of appreciating and embracing what you've been given and ultimately a gift, we then lose that opportunity of fully embracing by comparing to other people. And so we know that we have to hold our own cup, not look at other people's cups, not eyeing their cups either, just like in the story, but holding our own cup. And we recognize our own cup is filled with bitterness. It is filled, there's joy too, and I'll get to that part as well. But it requires a radical challenge to embrace it, to inhale, to take in what's in it. Because just look at Jesus, as I said, his cup was a cup of sorrow. The sorrow of the world that he had to embrace because of sin, not of his own, but the sins of humanity. He saw the cup. Các anh chị còn nhớ không? I'm sure you do. In the Passion era, trong cái cuộc tường nhạc của Chúa Kitô, trong vở cây dầu, Chúa còn nói với Chúa Cha mà, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Jesus himself was anxious and concerned and overwhelmed at the bitterness of the cup that he had. But what gave him the strength to overcome that cup of sorrow, that cup of bitterness? Was it his own strength? It was actually the strength, the grace of the love of his Father that had him, that allowed him to overcome the fear, the anxiety, the animosity that he was to face and embrace it fully. Okay, we say the same. Jesus said, Father, let this pass from me, but not my will, yours be done. Chúa Giêsu hiểu cái ý của Chúa Cha nó phải vượt chỗ hết mọi sự của chúng ta. And so do we not pray that in the Our Father? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. So Jesus embraced his cup as the Father's will. Is this God's will for you and for me? To embrace our life and our cup. So after we hold our cup, after we inhale the contents, after we sniff, then the next step that we take is we lift. It's called lifting the cup. Nếu mà các anh chị có thể dùng cái tư tưởng này. Okay, so putting the cup of Jesus aside. Think about any of the times that you're lifting up a cup. Okay, so when you tới Trừng Linh, just for whatever reason you come to mind Trừng Linh, so bởi vì thấy chị. When you were married, right? When you got married, was there not someone who lifted a cup? Chúc anh chị trăm năm hạnh phúc, cô dâu chú rể. Yes? Hay là bất cứ các anh chị mà đã lập gia đình, or you've been to a wedding yourself, have you not lifted up a cup to toast cheers? Vô, mình cộng ly với nhau phải không? Is that not what we do with our cups at a party, at a celebration? We unite with one another in that great joy, that excitement, that enthusiasm of that life that's now become one, the two who become one. And we give a blessing when we lift the cup. So use that image in your mind of lifting the cup as Jesus' invitation for us too. Because the cup of sorrow is actually also a cup of joy that Jesus invites you and me not just to hold, but to lift up in blessing. Because it's a cup of joy. Not joy because we have to suffer. Not joy because it's painful, but joy because it's offered in love. Offered in hope. Hope of salvation for the world, for humanity. And so that lifting of the cup is an affirmation to celebrate life. Celebrate the fact that you and I can join and unite with the sufferings of Christ to be transformed into something greater, into something so much more beautiful, beyond our own understanding. Thực sự khi nói là các anh chị khi nâng lên cái chén đó, cái ly để chúc cô dâu chú rể đó, mình chúc họ trăm năm hạnh phúc, mình đâu có chúc họ buồn sầu đâu, mình đâu có chúc họ nhiều thánh giá đâu phải không? Nhưng chính họ cũng phải hiểu cái hoàn cảnh là there will be challenges, there will be struggles, there will be pain. But at this moment, at this time, we lift it all up to congratulate them in this new step in their journey. And so when we can hold firm our cup, then that also means that we can also lift the cup up to give thanks to God in gratitude. And so we know that it's not easy. Trước hết mình nói là nói thực tế mình sợ, phải không? Mình nói là mình không có muốn cho người khác biết cuộc đời của mình làm sao. Because we said, remember, the cup is a cup of our life, the cup of our own journey. Do I really want people to know that I'm struggling? Do I really want people to know that I'm in pain, that I feel depression because of the pandemic, that I feel alone, that I feel isolated? No, in fact, I want to hide my cup. I don't want people to see my cup. I don't want people to see my life because it's easier that way. I can put on a show and no one would have to know. But then you have to ask yourself, truly, am I living my life as God has called me to then? If I'm putting it aside, if I'm hiding it, I'm not living. I'm actually dying. And so Jesus' invitation challenges us to be genuine and to be honest, to be forthright in saying, don't deny the fact that it's painful. Don't deny the fact that there's a struggle. But when you're willing to be honest with yourself, as well as being honest with others, and being brave enough to lift up the cup, you know what ends up happening? It's the exact opposite. Instead of people being pushed away, being afraid, they're actually welcomed by others. Because when one person is willing to be vulnerable, to let go of their barriers and let go of the obstacles and the fears, we come to recognize that the cup that we hold, all the struggles and the pain, guess what? Tất cả các anh chị khác xung quanh mình cũng có những cái thách đố đó, những cái khó khăn đó. Như vậy thay vì mình bị buồn phiền ấy, mình có cái sự thông cảm và mình có cái sự nâng đỡ. Because we think we're the only ones that encounter the hardships, that encounter the bitterness. We think we're the only ones that go through the struggles. But lo and behold, when we take the risk, when we take that step of lifting up that cup, others say, wow, Tina's struggling too. I thought it was just me. Or Tu, he seems so confident. He seems so strong. And he said that he struggles in prayer too. I'm not alone. And so other people, because of your bravery, because of your courageousness, because of your willingness to hold the cup and then lift up the cup, they too will be able to say, I know how you feel. I know your struggle because I struggle too. And so that cup that we thought was a cup of sorrow, a cup of pain, a cup of bitterness, actually now becomes the cup of blessing. Những cái lời chúc của mình cho người cô dâu chú rể đó is actually a blessing on our end too. Because what we give thanks for, what we're giving blessings for, is that in the crosses that I receive, in the bitterness that I'm going to drink, others are with me too. And I am not alone. Is that not comforting? Chúa Giêsu thì mình nghĩ là in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he was in pain and when he was suffering, when he was in so much distress, he brought 3 friends with him. Các anh chị có nhớ không? Peter, James, and John. But when he came back, what were they doing? They fell asleep. It was in the middle of the night. Jesus felt more anguish, but he also knew they were weak too. That phrase, the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. We are weak, but God is strong. And so that's why God brings people into our lives. So when nhiều anh chị huynh trưởng ấy, you have a support group. I see many familiar faces on the screen. I see many familiar names whose faces are not being shown that have enriched my life. That even in my struggle and in my pain, in my hardships as a religious sister, I know I'm not alone. Đương nhiên là Sơ Huyền có cộng đoàn của Sơ với các Sơ khác, nhưng có những người khác cũng nâng đỡ Sơ Huyền. So I know that when I lift up my cup, I'm not alone. And I hope các anh chị huynh trưởng, you also feel the same. That holding a cup, yes, is the first step. But the next step is lifting up in praise and glory, but also in blessing, because we journey together. Never, ever alone. Okay? So, holding the cup, lifting the cup. So holding, enjoying the aroma, recognizing, embracing what the hardships are, but knowing that in the hardships, there's joy because we're united in love. And then when we're lifting up the cup, that's when we give thanks, we give blessings to God. Jesus, remember, at the night before he died, he took bread and he also took the cup. He gave thanks, he blessed, and then he gave. And so that last part, the last part of the holding the cup, the lifting up of the cup, of course, is the most practical aspect, is the now drinking the cup. You imagine in whatever country or culture we're in, người Việt Nam ấy thì hay có cái thói quen, có một cái trong cái văn hóa của mình rất là tốt đẹp nhé. Mình nói là mình muốn uống với nhau, mình uống một cái ly, uống cà phê với nhau, đi rủ nhau đi uống cà phê, hay là sau mình biết là mỗi khi mình tham dự một cái trại post camp party, everyone wants to have a drink, and it can be any type of drink. You can drink a soda, you can drink a beer, you can drink wine. It just depends where you're at and who you're with. Mình thì không phải người thích uống rượu, đương nhiên là rất mà Thanh Chúa thì là khác. But I'm not necessarily a strong wine drinker. I don't drink beer. My father drinks beer. My brothers drink beer. But I don't necessarily consume that. But I recognize the value of having a glass of wine. Okay, a glass of red wine or a glass of white wine. Even with your meal. Một số người, nhất là bên văn hóa của Mỹ đó, họ hay uống một cái ly rượu trong khi họ ăn một cái bữa ăn. Ví dụ, you drink red wine when you have some form of beef, or you can have a white wine if you have some type of seafood. Okay, but drinking is something that is very natural. It's something very simple. Mình thì khi mình khát nước thì sao? When it's very hot, mình muốn uống một cách vội vàng ha, because you're so parched, you're so thirsty. Mình nói là mình muốn uống nước cho nó giải khát. and you don't even think about what you're drinking. But when it comes to the cup, the invitation that Jesus is inviting us to, the invitation is that we want to invite others to drink. So nó là khi mình thăm một người ở trong gia đình của họ đó, họ hay mời mình sao, anh chỉ có muốn dùng ly nước không, hay là có uống cái gì không ạ? Thì mình nói mình mời một cách lịch thiệp. It's out of courtesy. Would you like something to drink? Even when we go to restaurants, before it's the same thing. May I offer you something to drink? Would you like some tea? Would you like some coffee? Would you like some wine? It's a natural aspect of etiquette to invite someone to offer them to have a drink. So drinking from the cup seems natural. And yet remember, what kind of cup are we being invited to drink from? The cup is the cup of Jesus's chalice. The cup that has this bitterness, but also has joy. It has sorrow, but it also has blessings. But when we drink it, it's not just to drink for the sake of drinking. Khi mình khát thì mình uống nước, but drinking to savor it. Come on, anh chị, you understand what I mean when we say we savor the drink? Is you appreciate it. You know, like I'm a connoisseur về wine. What do? Họ hay lắc cái ly rượu, ha? Is that họ mùi vị? And then they just kind of let it soak in. That's the aspect of drinking from the cup that you and I are invited to do with Jesus. Because Jesus, did Jesus drink his cup slowly? Some would say yes. Some would say no, because it was one of those situations where Jesus was so overwhelmed. But I can assure you, Jesus was in full control when he was drinking his cup. And what we do is that we have to gradually look at our reality and drink it slowly and carefully. And the key word is willingly. Mình có dám cầm, mà cầm một cách rất là chắc, rất là vững mạnh, để cho mình nói là bất cứ cái gì mà Chúa gửi đến cho đời sống của con sẵn sàng chấp nhận. Và con không có chấp nhận mà thôi, mà con không có phải chịu đựng, mà con chịu đựng một cách sẵn sàng. I am willing to embrace it. I may not understand why or how or in what way you're inviting me on this journey, but because it's your invitation, Jesus, I take it. I accept it. And I know the difficulty, and you never force. You never tell me I have to. That's why when we say we take the cup, it's not about necessarily changing what we're doing on the inside, what it is on the cup itself. It's changing our own mindset, changing our own attitude in embracing the bitter. Because we know when we embrace it, when we lift it, when we consume it, that is how we become better. So embracing the bitter to be better. Embracing the challenges to see how we can grow from it. That drinking of the cup is filled with courage, but also filled with self-confidence that you're not alone. As I said, when you lift the cup, you're in union with so many other people who are journeying with you on this pathway. That true sanctity is drinking our own cup and trusting that God will be there to transform us, to grant us that freedom and that courage. Because we know that also the cup of sorrow is a cup of joy. The cup of sorrow and joy is the cup of blessing. And according to Psalm 116, it is also the cup of our salvation. Là chén của ân cứu độ. The cup that gives us true life, eternal life. The cup that Jesus gives us when we embrace it wholeheartedly, trusting in God's providence, is the cup that gives us true life. That Jesus knew the moment when he became man, when he was incarnate in the womb of our Blessed Mother, and as he lived his life into his public ministry, and now as what we are living out in the season of Lent, to embrace fully the cup of sorrow, that cup of joy, that cup of blessing, is the cup of salvation, not for his own salvation. because Jesus is already God himself. The salvation is not for him. The salvation is for you and for me. And so that cup of salvation, according to the Psalm 116 is, what return can I make to the Lord for his goodness to me? I shall take up the cup of salvation and call on the name of the Lord. Jesus himself embraced the cup. Jesus held the cup in his hands. He lifted it up in proper praise to God. And then he drank it. He drank it to the last drop when he carried his cross. After his scourging, after his beating, after his pain, he carried it all the way to Calvary. And remember, upon his crucifixion, remember one of the last words that he said was, I thirst. That this cup that he was drinking, he desired even more so, because he knew that that cup was the means of salvation for the entire world. So that way you and I could be reunited with our Father. That covenant that was broken multiple times in the Old Testament was now being made new through the blood that was being shed by Christ himself. So Jesus experienced all the things that you and I experience. We experienced joy, so did Christ. We experienced pain and loneliness, so did Jesus. We think, oh, no one understands me. Was Jesus not misunderstood? All the time. Was Jesus not ridiculed? Was Jesus not shamed or humiliated? Nói các anh chị nói là các huynh trưởng, nhất là những ai mà đã trong lĩnh vực lãnh đạo ha, mình phải chịu đựng rất là nhiều, từ các đoàn sinh, từ tất cả, ví dụ hội đồng mục vụ cũng có, cha xứ cũng có, cha tuyên úy, biết bao nhiêu sự cay đắng mình phải chịu đựng. Nếu mà chưa làm lãnh đạo, làm huynh trưởng cũng đủ rồi. Because all these things that you encounter, not appreciated, and not understood, often misunderstood, often misjudged. All the things that you in your own journey as a huynh trưởng mà các anh chị đã gặp phải rồi đó, Chúa Kitô là anh cả đó cũng hiểu và đã trải qua cho chúng ta. And how he did it was with great courage. He embraced everything to fulfill his own mission. And we recognize that the mission that he was given by his Father. The very Father who sent his Son out of love is the same Father that says, in all things you can do this. And that's why Jesus says, with God, all things are possible. And so in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus does drink his cup. It involved fear and anxiety and uncertainty. But the deep relationship that Jesus had with his Father was what gave him the strength to hold the cup, to lift the cup, and to consume what was in it. Because at that moment of his death, when he said, I thirst, he says, I thirst to give life to the rest of the world. And so we know that that deep love, that deep trust and total abandonment, khi Chúa Giêsu tin tưởng và phó thác hoàn toàn trong cái dự định của Chúa Cha, thì qua thánh giá tới vinh quang, cái đó là cái câu của các sơ dòng mệnh Thánh Nhà đó, qua thánh giá tới vinh quang. There cannot be Easter Sunday and glory if there is no Good Friday. So đối với sâu huỳnh hiểu là qua tất cả những cái thách đố, những cái cay đắng trong cuộc sống của chúng ta, khi mình đã ôm ấp với ơn Chúa đó, thì lúc đó là Chúa thanh hóa bản thân của mình để cho nên thánh, để cho mình vươn lên giống Chúa Kitô. So drinking that cup of sorrow, that cup of blessing, holding it in our hands freely and willingly, we too can unite ourselves with Christ, who united himself to the Father's will. And in our union, in our participation in that act of salvation, we ourselves will be granted that gift of eternal life. Thì sau mình xin chia sẻ một vài tư tưởng cho các anh chị để cho mình hiểu được là khi Chúa Giêsu có hỏi chúng ta cái câu hỏi đó, can you drink this cup? Will you be able to respond for yourself? Yes, I can. Or in honesty, you may say, I will try. I will try my best. Thì cái đó là mình không thể đòi hỏi cái gì được nữa. Trong cái yếu đuối con người, mình biết là mình có giới hạn. And maybe for a time, and this is where you have to also be sincere. Maybe for a time, you can truly say, I have chosen a cup. This is the cup I've chosen. But Jesus will challenge you back and say, but that's not the cup I want to give you. This is the cup I want to give you. Will you accept then? And even if we're not ready, even if we have our hesitation, Jesus says, it's okay. Because I will be there waiting for you. So mình biết là chén đắng của Chúa đó, led him to this. Led him to the cross. But the cross is the means of our salvation too. So nếu mà các anh chị có thể dùng vài cái tư tưởng đó, consider those cups that I actually gathered at the very beginning of this session. Look at it. See, what are you feeling inside your cup? Do you accept what's inside? Do you hold your life so tightly that you don't want other people to know? Or are you willing to take that risk, just like Jesus risked his life, and say, although I feel uncertain, I will trust in your guidance, that cup of sorrow will be transformed into that cup of joy, that cup of blessing, the cup of salvation. Okay. Thì sau mình xin tạm ngừng ở đây, còn lại khoảng chừng 5-6 phút, thì không biết là có anh chị nào có muốn chia sẻ tư tưởng gì không, hay là có cái điểm nào mà thấy là it was very inspiring for you, or something that you would like to share in your own journey. If you can make a connection with the cup, with the theme that I just offered for your reflection. Do you see your cup? Are you willing to accept your cup? And if you wish to share, so we can also lift our cup in gratitude with you. Thì sau mình xin mời, nếu mà có anh chị nào muốn chia sẻ đó, thì sau mình đừng ngại nhé. Don't be bashful. But if you're open to it, if you would consider, so we can turn.
I have a question though.
Sure, Lynn.
The book that you introduced in the beginning,
Yes.
is that what you base this talk on?
Yes, it is. So it's called it's really, the title is called Can You Drink the Cup by Father Henry Nouwen. It's very thin. Ngài viết trong cái lúc mà he reflects on his own journey as a priest, and then he invites those who have been part of his own life, the friends and his encounters, to look at their own life journey. And so if nếu mà các anh chị có thể mua được cái, it's the basis of what I just shared too. Very meaningful, very simple.
So I love
You're
book
welcome.
recommendations, so I will
Yes.
probably one.
Yes. Is that on Peter? Có phải anh Peter không? It is? Okay. Is there a fear? Nói thật đấy. Is there a fear of holding your cup very naturally? Go ahead, Du.
I can go. So this is my cup. It's that mason jar, nothing fancy.
Right.
But what I'm filling it with is my trust in Jesus more.
Good.
Lately, life has been really hard, I mean, for all of us, but I find out that whenever I try to get closer to Jesus, temptation gets harder.
Yes.
It's like the more I pray, the heavier my soul kind of gets. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that. Maybe it's pulling me away, but sometimes I feel like the more good deeds, the more prayer I do, the cup gets bigger and bigger. And I start questioning, can I keep drinking from it?
Right.
And that's what I'm struggling with.
Okay. Well, thank you, Du, for your honesty and sincerity. Đúng rồi. It seems almost like there's no bottom. And it continues to get deeper and deeper. Yet mình cũng phải tin rằng although it may seem deeper, God's grace continues to go more than that. And so there is a phrase amongst the spiritual fathers that say, what the closer one comes to Jesus, the closer one comes closer to God, the stronger the pull the devil will be, because he recognizes he's about to lose a soul. He knows that he has to try everything in his grasp to pull that person away from God. And the one who is humble, the one who recognizes his weakness, the one who sees the challenges and then reaches out and asks for God's grace and God's mercy, those are the ones that the devil has no control over. But that's the one that he tries to gain even further. So you're actually closer to grace than you realize, even more so. Because that mere desire of yours, that cup that you see just keeps going deeper, that it gets bigger, is actually being filled with more of God's grace. But that's where that trust comes in, like you said. Not easy, but indeed God's grace abounds. Where sin is present, God's grace is even more so. But we have to be willing to collaborate with His grace. We have to be willing to offer ourselves in that trust. Những Chúa Giêsu đã một cái phó thác hoàn toàn á. We have to be willing to trust that God's presence is there with us. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Chỉ còn lại 2 phút nữa thôi, xong mình cũng muốn tôn trọng cái thời gian của nhau đó. Thì không biết là nếu mà còn tư tưởng nào có anh chị muốn chia sẻ, or you're just still pondering it, you're just letting it soak in. Allow it to soak in. But indeed, speak for yourself. Maybe share it with others that are around you. Okay? Cho nên là thấy chị Thảo có mấy hiện lên, chị muốn chia sẻ không, hay là
Yes, chào Sơ Huyền.
Yeah, chào chị.
Thank you for this Lenten. It's very enlightening. I know that due to the pandemic, because of the virtual and not the sinh hoạt, so I'm quite distant, and I didn't really feel the love and being like God there. But basically, what I want to share is that I have a lot of children, and 2 of them are very good. I mean, they're very responsible. They go to school, does everything that that we're supposed to. So I'm very pleased with them. But I have 2 other sons that they're somewhat on the autism side, on the spectrum. So I have a lot of anxiety, distress, concerned, and sometimes I feel angry at them.
Mm-hmm.
But with your retreat, I reflect on that, and I reflect how on God love, how God loved everyone, and God loved the fortunate and especially the unfortunate. And then so I felt that all this time I should embrace my children, and I should show them love more instead like show anger or displeased with them. I think I should, show them love more, because that is how God and Jesus would respond, that they love the unfortunate more, not just, show pleases with my older children, but to show the one that, give me more worries, and I should embrace that and show them, and then just respond that with love. So this retreat is very helpful, and I think that is it changed my perspective in life, that like when working with my children, I should think of them as a blessing, then so thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. Cảm ơn chị Thảo đã chia sẻ nữa. Mình nhiều lúc mình nói là mình không, nếu mà cái cách mình nhìn ấy, it's how we see it, how we view the perspective. Do we see that cup as something negative? Or do we see it, yes, it is filled with challenges, but those challenges are the blessings. They say challenges are the blessings in disguise. Mình không có thể nhận ra ngay cái giây phút đó, nhưng sau một thời gian mình ngắm nhìn ấy, mình thấy là Chúa quan phòng vô cùng vô tận. God understands so much that God allows us that opportunity and that time to be able to recognize, and what I thought was such a hardship has now become the greatest blessing. Ok, thì sau mình biết là bây giờ quá giờ rồi thì cũng cảm ơn trước hết thì cảm ơn sự diện của các anh chị đã sign into the session. It's so beautiful sign that you yourself are seeking that nourishment. Thì sau mình cũng cảm ơn các anh chị đã sẵn sàng nghe, có thể không có nhiều giờ để cho đóng góp chia sẻ với nhau, nhưng ít nhất là mình có cái giờ chung với nhau. Thì sau mình xin chân thành cảm ơn các anh chị rất nhiều. Chắc bây giờ chào lại cho anh Dương ha.
So we can extend it for another 5-10 minutes if needed. It seems các trưởng in their facial expression seems that they have some thoughts too that they still want to share với chia sẻ với sir. I think the topic it's definitely relatable to các trưởng. Maybe nếu có thể con share a thought and maybe các trưởng if you can relate and jump on to you know and I think as huynh trưởng we often have been reminded that we take on the cross. And it is through that cross that we come to glory. And it just seems that the cross doesn't end. It's one cross after another cross. You know, xong một cái thánh giá rồi cái thánh giá khác nữa rồi mình cứ tiếp tục. And then sometimes thánh giá nó get nặng cho đến lúc mà to the point where you get fatigued out, you get burnt out, you get lucid. And still then the thánh giá keeps on coming. And realizing and understanding tất cả những cái gì mà sơ trình bày. I'm wondering what wisdom, what insight you can help us as we continue to deal with the pandemic. And we're getting fatigued to the point of sort of burnt out for many. And in applying the cup that you've talked about, maybe some practical thoughts that you've experienced, that you've seen that may be helpful for our huynh trưởng.
I had a conversation recently with một người huynh trưởng, and very very insightful for me. It's first and foremost mình cảm thấy cái sự nạn của mình ở trong cái đại dịch này, mình cũng không có biết là khi nào nó chấm dứt. It's so difficult, and as anh Dương cũng mới chia sẻ là it just like it keeps getting heavier and heavier. Thực tế nhất là Jesus fell carrying his cross. Remember, Jesus himself also didn't want to drink the cup initially. Trong vườn cây dầu Chúa nói đó, Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass. So on the journey to Calvary, mình biết là theo cái truyền thống là Chúa ngã không phải một lần đâu, không phải Chúa ngã 2 lần đâu, Chúa ngã 3 lần. So it's the realization one that it's okay if we fall. It's okay if we falter. It's okay if we end up giving into the weakness. I'm not acknowledging that you should always fall, but I'm saying nếu mà mình có cảm thấy nó nản, hay mình có buồn trên một phần nào đó, hay mình bực bội, giống chị Thảo mới chia sẻ là I get frustrated about my kids, the ones that I struggle with. It's part of that journey too. So mình cảm thấy là when we have this self-knowledge, when we recognize that yes, we are weak, that we struggle, that we have these experiences of pain and sorrow, that's okay. It's okay to experience that. Jesus experienced the rejection. Jesus experienced the pain. Jesus experienced the bitterness. Chúa gặp phải những cái cay đắng trong cuộc sống của Ngài. One of his best friends betrayed him. One of the closest. So was Jesus not hurt? Of course he was. So chính mình nói là Chúa không thể thông cảm được trong tất cả những cái thách đó. Đương nhiên là Chúa hiểu được, chứ còn hiểu hơn thế nữa. But to know that is one aspect. So self-knowledge is one. But we have to accept it too. Okay, I accept that I fell. I accept that I yelled at my children, that I got upset with my husband or my wife, that I lost my temper with các em đoàn sin. I was frustrated with các huynh trưởng khác who were not faithful in their task or their duty. Accept it. Acknowledge it. Know it for yourself. Accept it. But then take what it is, learn from that, and then give it back as a gift. Not give back the frustration, not give back the anger or the bitterness, but recognize giống chị Thảo nói là transform the vision of what you see. Do I want to stay bitter, or do I want to be better? Because that bitterness will only make things worse. But if I recognize it's just change of one letter. Các anh chị có để ý không? The word bitter is just the letter I. Get rid of the I. Get rid of the ego. And think of the other. Think of everyone else. That's where the E comes in. Bitter or better? You want to think about yourself, I, or you want to think about everyone else, the others in your life? So we recognize who we are, and that is part of the reality that we're in. Chấp nhận cái điều mình làm. nhưng mình không có ở đó. You don't stay there. You try to look at the example of Christ who also fell, but he got up. You have to continue to vươn lên và nói là you don't do it alone. Nếu mà mình nói là chồng em không có hiểu em, vợ em không có hiểu em, okay, at that moment, at that time, try again, another opportunity. Có thể có một người bạn thân của mình, một anh huynh trưởng khác, một chị huynh trưởng khác, hay một cha, một sơ, bất cứ ai mình có thể nói là our spouses help us in their journey, but we also need others in their journey too to help us in that way. Thì không biết là sao mình chia sẻ một ít thêm tư tưởng nữa như vậy, thì hy vọng nó có thể giúp các huynh trưởng hiểu it's okay to recognize one's weakness.
Xin cảm ơn sir.
Yeah.
All right. We've got about 2 minutes. If there are other thoughts from các trưởng, xin mời các trưởng nha.
Ongoing journey, that's all I can say. Mình nói là mình uống cái chén đắng này nó không có phải là một lần là hết đâu. Nhưng mà tôi cũng chia sẻ là it just continues on. It's a lifelong journey. But always know that you never journey alone. Có Đức Mẹ, có Thánh cả du xe, mình nói là 5 thánh của Thánh du xe đó, chắc chắn là trong những cái thách đố của Chúa Giêsu đó, có Đức Mẹ mà cũng có Thánh du xe trong tinh thần.
Rồi, xin mời trưởng nào đó. Okay. Rồi thì nếu mà không có ai có other thoughts, maybe at this time I invite everyone to turn on your camera and lift up your cup for me that you had at the beginning of the activity for today. There we go. And if some of you are electronically proficient with Teams, see if you can take a screenshot of all of us with our cup up. And so, sir, I think one of the activity for our 40-day Lenten journey today is to the activity is to look outside the window, but we're going to invite everyone to look through our camera screen here. And we were asked to look at life and look at the blessings that we have and the blessings that God has blessed us with. And today I invite everyone to look at Sơ Huyền and to really see Sơ as a blessing that God has sent to us during this Lenten journey. And thank you, Sơ, for reminding us to embrace the bitter cup that many of us often as huynh trưởng have been tasked with, whether it be thiếu nhân lực tại đoàn, hay là các trưởng không đến sinh hoạt, hay là các em không có nghe lời mình, or lots of misunderstanding, lots of challenges from family, relationship, and gia đình all together. And cảm ơn sir reminding us to embrace it and to really hold the cup, to lift the cup, and to drink the cup. And I think that's extremely important during this particular time trong cái Lenten journey này. So on that note, we invite everyone to think of the blessing that we have tonight, and so we'll raise the cup and we lift the cup to Sơ Huyền. And thank you, sir. Everybody cheers here. And xin Chúa tiếp tục gìn giữ sir. We'll pray for you, and please continue to pray for us as we continue on. And as a token of appreciation, all of our huynh trưởng here will pray for you tonight. Those of you who are on the line, please pray for sir tonight, and we'll send a small gift to your office there for the Spirit. And at this point, con xin mời cha tổng tướng úy. Wait, toast first real quick, everybody, and can someone take a screenshot for all of us? All right, here we go. On 3, 2. Rồi, con xin mời cha tổng tướng úy với lời cuối cùng mà ban phép lành cho chúng con. Chúng con xin
Cảm ơn Sơ Huyền, cảm ơn trưởng dân rất nhiều. Cái cấp này nãy cha lúc đầu cha không có cơ hội trình bày. Đây là cái cấp mà để kỷ niệm với tĩnh tâm của ban chấp hành trung ương. A year ago, exactly a year ago, March 2019. Cho nên cái cấp này rất là quý. Kỷ niệm là cái cấp mà nó là Hearts of Faith. So cũng tiếp lời với Sơ Huyền với Dương đó. So maybe just a journey of Lent. We hold the cup and lift the cup and drink the cup. So mỗi ngày đó chúng ta cần khi mà nâng ly lên đó, say a prayer maybe not out loud, but deep in the heart, whether that is coffee or water, or whatever that is in the cup, mà chúng ta cùng take a moment, just a few seconds to hold it, to live and to drink it. Và cái cầu nguyện này mà cha thích mà trong lời linh mục hay cầu nguyện này, chúc tụng Chúa là Chúa tể càng khôn, vì Chúa rộng ban cho chúng con rượu này. So this is nước này là bởi cây nho và lao công của con người. Chúng con dâng lên Chúa để trở nên của uống thiêng liêng cho chúng con. That become a spiritual drink. So whether that is a Coke, Sprite, soft drink hay là water, and this gives us life. So đối với ý cầu nguyện như vậy đó, thì chúng ta sẽ donate for this Lent. Tại vì mình mỗi ngày mình uống nhiều lắm mà mình không có waste cái time để mà cầu nguyện, thì mình waste a lot of opportunity and blessing. So my suggestion for this Lent journey based on Sơ Huyền sharing today. Okay. Nhân cha và con thì để chúng ta cùng nhau focus vào cái chúng ta nói rằng là we are holding the cup, we are lifting it and drink it, and whatever is in the cup. Chúng con cảm tạ Chúa cho chúng con có cơ hội để đến đây để lắng nghe, chia sẻ và cảm nhận được cái ý nghĩa trong đời sống của chúng con. Ý nghĩa hàng ngày là cái cup, cái mớt nó rất gần gũi với chúng con và mang cho chúng con sự sống và sức mạnh thiêng liêng. Xin Chúa cho chúng con biết nối kết với cái cup của cuộc đời của con và đồng hành với Chúa trong cái mùa chay này. Và cũng cái cup này xin Chúa đông đổ tràn đầy hồng ân và tình yêu thương của Chúa trong cái mớt, cái cup của chúng con đang hold, đang lift, and we'll drink, so that we can drink your blessing every day in this cup. Vậy để chúng ta cùng nhau lắng động rất là thiêng liêng. Và trước khi rất là thiêng liêng, xin Chúa tha thứ những lỗi lầm, thiếu sót yếu đuối của chúng ta. Vậy để chúng ta cùng hợp ý rất là thiêng liêng. Lạy Chúa Giêsu thánh thể, yêu mến Chúa, xin Chúa ngự vào tâm hồn con và ở lại với con luôn mãi. Trời đã xế chiều, Giêsu ơi, con nhờ tay mẹ Maria mà dâng lên Chúa, dâng chung lời cảm ơn, dâng cho cả xác hồn các việc con này, các lời con xin, cùng với mọi khó nguy con chịu chót một ngày qua, cùng với bóng chiều tà, Giêsu Maria, con hòa nhập về nơi bao la. Chúa ban phép lành, đêm ngủ an, hồn trong xác tươi xinh. Chúa cùng anh chị em
và cùng cha.
Xin Thiên Chúa toàn năng là Cha và Con và Thánh Thần ban phúc lành cho anh chị em. Bình an.